This show is for everyone working at the coalface. Digital, business, marketing, social. This is At the Coalface with your host, Jason Greenwood.
So, Alejandro Davila, did I say that right? Because two L's would Davila. There's right. Davila, one L, right? Mm-hmm. Cool, I want to make sure I got your name right. Thanks for inviting us up to your awesome offices, the Conical offices. And as you know, we met at AdTech this year in Auckland. Mm-hmm. I had never had VR or AR experience before in my life, including gaming. I'm not a gamer, so that was my very first time. Yeah. So thank you for introducing me to the world of VR and AR. That was an awesome experience. Why don't you tell us, I guess, a little bit about how Conical came to be in the first place and how you came to be in the VR and AR space in the first place?
Yeah, before the VR hype, we made this prototype. I was very keen on VR. I had my first experience like maybe 4 years ago when all the headsets were still pretty at its early stages and stuff. So, but it still blew me away in the fact that you could move in a digital environment, and I wanted to make a movie, like a short film, but I wanted that short film to like stand out in some way. So I was looking into motion capture, but then when I found that virtual reality was an alternative, I said, hey, let's figure this out. And then a few of us came together to make this happen, and since then we started Conical.
Wow, that's cool. So were you in the tech space before this, or were you in the creative space, or both?
I was in the creative space before, and my collaborators were more in the tech space. I had to get myself into the tech space a bit more with getting into VR, but I did have the foundations of tech space already, even though I was in the creative space, because I was doing 3D animation, and when you're working on 3D animation, you're working in the digital world already, mm-hmm. and that really helps transition into VR and AR. Yeah.
And so, did Conical spring out as a startup underneath AUT? Is that kind of how it got its genesis?
Yeah.
So you were at AUT. Were you studying at AUT?
Well, I was working in the industry for about 10 years in the creative space, and then AUT was the one leading and pioneering in VR. And the one that really was putting VR out there and into the hands of people, because other than that, you would have to go to very expensive research labs, and AUT was facilitating that to prospective students. So I came here to do a master's, and I said, great, how about do a master's in VR? So that was pretty much how it all started, but that was before VR was popular. So,
a master's degree in VR?
No, well, it was creative technologies.
Yeah.
But you can put VR under that umbrella.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a specialization, effectively.
A specialization. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so did they? So they effectively helped you access the hardware, access the software.
Yeah.
And then you brought your creative talents to the table, effectively using some of their tools to create some of the experiences you were looking to create.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. You just said it.
Wow, cool.
I just wanted to make something. I had an idea and everything. I didn't have the resources, but the other people who were at the research areas of AUT had some of that know-how. So I had to become a leader and bring the best out of each of them and inspire them to make something that we could really put out there. The thing is that everything's about timing. Mm-hmm. There's 5 elements to successful projects, and one of them, like the first one, is timing. So when preparation meets opportunity. So we were prepared, we had something ready. There were a few lined up events and association openings of the VR industry that happened July last year, and that's when we had our product ready. And then we just got a lot of requests to do showcases and that, and that's when we got the demand from the industry to do other things for them. And then bigger brands like Noah Leeming, for example, asked us to do some of the work, and then that just gave us more credibility, and then like that we just carried it on, and now it's been in business for over a year, and we are 11 now, so we're pretty excited to where we are with this startup, and a lot of the support thanks to AUT.
Great, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I've got a question. Like the Green Fairy
Yes.
is like that make a lot of people aware of you guys, right? Like,
That's
at
right.
least that's how I came to know you guys.
That character,
Yeah,
right?
the character, the Green Fairy.
Yeah.
You guys did a like promotion in Westfield, is that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Green Fairy is,
Yeah.
I tell people, is our Mickey Mouse pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
We don't promote Conical,
Yeah.
we just promote the products that we make,
Yeah.
and our first product was the Green Fairy,
Yeah.
and we got a lot of requests, and one of them was by the Westfield malls to do a showcase and take it nationwide.
Yeah.
So because we've built this animated character and we had all these stories for it,
Yes.
we've really created a fantastic activation where we engage with like thousands of people nationwide at the Westfield malls, and yes,
Yeah.
it gave us more attention. So we're often known as the Green Fairy guys and girls, because we have about a lot of women in our
Yeah.
In your team?
team. Yes.
Yeah. But where does the character inspiration of the character came from?
Oh, the character.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a character that it's an idea I had a long time ago.
Wow.
As I said, I wanted to make a short film, tell
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
and I was studying for my driver's license,
Yeah.
and I failed my driver's license, but because I was too distracted thinking
Yeah.
about the traffic lights.
Yeah.
So I had an idea of like, oh, fairies, like they glow and stuff.
Yeah.
So what if like they live in the traffic lights? So then like that unique concept came about,
Right.
and
Like the Green Light Fairy, but
Yeah.
shortened to like the Green Fairy.
That's right.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what the premise is about,
Yeah.
Mm.
and it's so simple,
Yeah.
and that it's easy to understand,
Mhm.
and then when you combine it with technology,
Mhm.
and then it just becomes something quite unique.
Mm.
Yeah.
So apart from the commercial projects that you work on, in terms of creating your own content to promote the Conical brand, the Conical company, everything else, do you do much on social media? Do you do interviews with staff, or do you what do you do, I guess, in terms of exposing the Conical brand and what it's capable of to the world? Do you show little clips, like do you walk someone through, for example, have you created content where you walk through somebody from concept all the way through to fruition and kind of document that journey document that creative journey? Have you ever done that before? Because I would see that as pretty
That's
awesome.
true. We did it when we very first started.
Yeah.
We got in the news, the New Zealand Herald Focus, I think, and then TV3 as well. But we had a little piece that I took them through a very quick process. It was very short. It was like 45 seconds, the whole thing.
Mhm.
But I said, hey, first we do this, we do the planning, then we go to the studio, we record it, and we put it in VR, you know? But you can see the visuals of that.
Mhm.
But in a more extensive one, we haven't quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'll be considering doing soon.
Great.
Yeah.
And when you first had your first VR experience, that led you to thinking, hey, I'm a creative. I see the VR space as being the perfect opportunity for me to showcase my creative, I guess, capability or my creative dreams, and it's the medium that I want to use for my creativity. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what drove you into the VR space. But did you, at the time, the very first VR experience you had, was it game changing to you in your mind beyond that, like beyond what you could do as a palette within VR and within that as a creative space? Did you feel that the technology itself, the underlying technology, was as game changing as I felt it was the first time I guess I experienced it? Like to the internet and the way that people interact with each other on a day-to-day basis, did you feel that change, that kind of sea change on the horizon even the first time you experienced it?
Yeah, well, I felt it like as Uncharted Territory, like an untapped resource that a lot of people were, even myself, scared of leaping into. Yeah, like it's just overwhelming how how challenging it looked to even make something like that. So I guess it's just like closing your eyes and just going ahead and doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much my experience with it. But I think I got the
Hold your
confidence.
breath and leap.
Yeah,
Right.
leap of faith. When I saw, I mean, it's great to be connected to the internet and see what other people are doing overseas. I took a short trip to LA for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I did some research beforehand of some of the key researchers and research companies in the US, and they were all in LA. Like that was the hub, and still is the hub of like VR. And
Well, it's a confluence of tech and entertainment, right? Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
LA.
But more than Silicon Valley, like LA is still like I think I would regard it as one on the top. And yeah, before all those people got famous, like I was able to meet with them, have a look at their office, try a few of their experiences, just because the research that I was doing at AUT on the side was actually putting me in scope, giving me the scope that I needed for what was going on in the world. And a lot of like research papers and a lot of that kind of stuff before it being public, you know? So yeah, I was blown away by how close they were to be on the verge of something quite big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now it's pretty, you cannot quite access some of those people at this stage, just because of the explosion that happened last year. But
and the demand on their time, the demand on their attention.
Yeah, of
and
course.
I guess because I mean, I look at it as very much the early days of the internet. I feel like VR and AR are still at the dial-up stage.
Yes.
And as I said before, I think that's very much where we're at. And you know, it was the Wild West, because I remember pre-internet, during the internet, when the internet was really rolling out, and then kind of that post-internet era where everybody, the internet was ubiquitous. And now it's in the palm of your hand. So I guess I remember that whole entire journey and what that looked like and what I kind of felt like as we were globally going through that journey. And I feel like, based on my experience so far, that we're still at that dial-up phase of VR and AR. That we can all see where that future goes a little bit. We can kind of have a glimpse, and the current technology gives us that glimpse, but it's not quite there yet, and it's not quite, I guess, standardized enough in terms of the frameworks, the templating, the tools, the hardware. All that stuff is still advancing so rapidly that there hasn't really even been a chance for standardization yet.
Yeah.
There's some standards, and I guess with the likes of ARKit and things like that, and some of the mobile platforms creating some form of a standard, that's going to accelerate. The standardization is going to accelerate, but I feel very much, at least at this stage, to my novice eyes, that we're still at that place where it's still a little bit of the Wild West.
Yeah.
It's being actively developed, being actively explored. We don't even know what standards are going to look like quite yet. And once it hits that point of standardization, then the explosion of VR and AR can actually take place, because there are some standards. Instead of everything being bespoke, I think is the term you use, Tony, that in the early days of the internet, I remember because I worked for an internet company very early in my career that was building websites, and literally everything was 100% bespoke. There were no common tool sets, there weren't frameworks, there weren't platforms such as WordPress and Magento, there weren't e-commerce platforms, there weren't CMS platforms, there was nothing. It was all bespoke. It was all bespoke HTML, all bespoke JavaScript, everything was bespoke, everything was custom. So doing anything on the internet was really hard. It was really hard, it was really time consuming, and it was really expensive. And then all of a sudden, as the frameworks came to the fore, everything dropped radically in price, timelines shrunk for projects, and costs came radically down. And I see it the same way with 360-degree video had the same genesis. It had happened much faster. 360-degree video was super expensive, and now it's practically free on your cell phone, you know, inside of Facebook. So do you see that kind of evolution happening yourself in this space, being so close to it? And do you see that the costs will come down, the technology will standardize within the next 3 to 5, and then from there the adoption can explode? Is that kind of the path you see this industry taking?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, that it's all been the hardware that's been the wall, and you need a big computer with big processing power, especially last year. The year before last year, I forgot we're in the new year now. Where every showcase that I had to do was on those big PCs, on the towers. But then last year, all the client showcases with it were just with the laptops. And then now, at the end of last year, they released, only available in China, the standalone VR headsets, which are interactive. So it's not like a 360 phone one. It's like a proper high-end VR where you can lean over, where it's all packaged into the headset. And I think that's what's going to help break through the market. That is just $400 as well. But again, there'll be a second iteration from that will probably be a bit more advanced, that we'll see at the end of this year for Christmas. So Christmas could be a big explosion for that. But I found it interesting, Tony, what you said before of how games used to be. Before, was it games that you were saying, or?
I was saying, when iPhone first came out, all the games were really basic. Like it's showing off of the technology rather than actually full gameplay. Comparing to the video games that you had all those tens of years that you have the history behind it. Where the games I experience today give me the same sort of feeling. It's like we're showing off the technology right now, but in terms of the gameplay, the story behind it and everything, we're still not quite there yet. But I've got a feeling that it's gonna get there real quick.
I forgot that. Yeah, we went through that already. So it's good to draw those parallels, because there's a lot of people who are skeptic out there about technologies, and especially when it first came out, and when I was trying to bring a team together, I had to go through a lot of naysayers and skeptics, and then prove the point that it's, you can do this, So.
I mean, I remember this when e-commerce was the agency that I was working for was building e-commerce websites, and I remember back in the early days when e-commerce was just in its nascency, trying to talk to businesses about e-commerce and the fact that they needed a website, and particularly if they were a products company, that if they wanted to be direct to consumer on the internet, that they needed to have an e-commerce website where somebody could transact with them. And I remember these exact same discussions, not only with tech people at the time, which was made it hard to hire for our company, to hire tech people because they didn't see much of a future in the internet. At that time, they were hardcore programmers, so they were into, some of them were into mainframes and some of them were into other technologies, prior to the internet. And so they consider themselves hardcore IT people, not this newfangled internet thing. And businesses were very much the same. They didn't see a value in even having a website. They didn't see a value in being transactional online. They didn't see the benefit of spending, at the time, $5,000 to $10,000 was kind of what it cost to build a bespoke website. Which at that time was a huge investment for a business that didn't know whether this internet thing was really going to take off.
How much was it? Sorry.
This was $5,000 to $10,000 at the time, and that was a lot of money for businesses to spend when they could do, it's a lot of traditional advertising for that kind of money. Up to $20,000 at the time. So, I see very much your space as being kind of in that early phase where businesses don't quite yet understand how this technology can or should affect their business. How can they leverage it for business purposes? And I guess from your perspective, because you're not coming at it from the commerce angle, you're coming at it from the entertainment and creative angle. That's a very different angle. It's a very different angle. So you're not trying to build experiences that businesses can leverage to sell more stuff. That's not your angle. That's not your take. Yours is very much a creative take. So who primarily are, I guess, the people that hire Conical to create experiences for them? Are they gaming companies that want to create a gaming experience, or are they creative companies that are actually trying to create a creative experience of some description?
Well, it's been brands that have been wanting to jazz up a bit their business,
right,
and show that they're leaders in the tech industry, and that they're remain at the forefront of that. That's pretty much been our client base, and we can deliver. We can show that we can deliver, and then they say, "Hey, can you have a green fairy-like thing for us?" And then we just make it. It's been mainly to spread awareness of the technologies for them. It's been trying to find modules for training that are a bit more gamification, and it's been the thing is, with the Green Fairy has become such a big thing for us that we've been funded to just work on it a lot. So the government has been very supportive of us to show that New Zealand can make some really cool stuff and just put it out there in the international stage, and that's pretty much what they've funded us to do.
So it's brand New Zealand using the Green Fairy to show tech leadership from New Zealand in a creative, interactive way.
In the creative industries, and internationally, So we're gonna finish the VR film 2.0. So we showcase at the malls the first version. The second version, which was funded by the Film Commission, is gonna be ready very soon, in mid-February. Then we're gonna have the augmented reality episodes. So we're completely we're aiming to disrupt that industry by empowering families to transform their living rooms into a fantasy world where they can actually move inside the story worlds, but be very accessible still with the phones or the tablets, but maximizing the potential of the virtual worlds. And there's a bit of cross-pollination between the VR world and the AR world, because it's pretty much the same world accessed through different platforms. So it's pretty much a platform that we're building, but that has many windows. And that's the key to all this, because VR can be quite isolating, but it's more immersive than AR. So if you go to a conference or something and there's a lot of people, you cannot have an AR showcase. It looks a bit lame, to be honest, because there's so many distractions around you. But if you put the headset on, you forget about everyone else, But if you go home and you're with your kids and then you want to do a fun activity with them or show them something cool. That's when the fairy comes to life in AR and you can like catch them and stuff. So it depends on the environment, and then if you map those things out according to your needs, I think that's a good thing.
Nice. And where do you feel that Conical fits, I guess, in terms of the AR, VR scene, tech scene in New Zealand, of the companies that are playing in this space? Do you feel that Conical's way ahead of most of the others, or kind of at about the same place that the others are? Do you have really any competitors, I guess, in the New Zealand space? Mm-hmm. How many other VR, AR companies are operating in New Zealand and specializing in that? And are they typically traditional web or creative design companies that have then moved into that space, or are they basically mostly brand new startups that they specialize out the gate in AR and VR? And I guess what's the future for you and Conical? Where do you see your future in that space?
Yeah, we want to, even though we will continue to do commercial work to help clients and businesses to make them look good. We want to make them look good, and it's our responsibility to make that happen. We want to make them understand that you need to use story to communicate those things and really create that bond between the consumer and their brand. Like, that's pretty key. And we are going to continue to improve our pipelines and skills in crafting that through the work that we do in the entertainment industry, which is our niche and our market that we want to remain in. And that's in the entertainment industry, film, television, but making AR and VR one of those channels of entertainment and be able to deliver those platforms. So that's where we are, where we're going to be in terms of competitors. I guess yes, of course there's competitors everywhere. Australia has some really good companies, and in New Zealand, I don't know. There's from the top of my head like 5 to 10 that I know, I'm aware of, and that every time we go to an event, they're always there. And some of them I've noticed try and do everything. They try and do the corporate thing, and then they try and do the kid stuff, and then they try and do the film stuff, and then it's hard to define where they're standing. So what I've learned is you have to just be very clear with what you're giving, because otherwise another company that has been in the industry for 10 years, not in the VR industry, but perhaps as a digital agency, which may have more resources, then would just be able to take over some of those niches quite quickly, especially the corporate ones. So I think what we've done is been great, because it's just, no, we're focused on entertainment, we're focused in the young audiences, and whether it's AR that is more accessible for them, we'll do that. And that's why the Film Commission and TVNZ and New Zealand On Air have been very supportive of us. And now we're going to the States, and we're going to have some really cool meetings with some key global partners that are going to be very interested in our content. So we'll see what happens the second half of this year.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing, I guess, your journey, your story. And man, I'm excited to watch where Conical goes, what it does, and the kind of, I guess, content that it creates that can delight all of our worlds. It's pretty exciting. So thank you. Really appreciate
Thank you. We're still early days, but yeah, we'll see. Stay tuned.
And we'll I'm sure that we'll continue to have, I'd like to get updates from you on a regular basis, of kind of where you're at and where you see this thing headed, because it's exciting times. It feels like the early days of the internet. It's nice to be once again, I guess, at the leading edge of something so exciting.
Yes, it is. Yes. So, thank you.